if you wanted to learn Apex triggers and you are confused how to use different trigger events, trigger context variables, then you must watch this video. Because in this video, all I'm going to cover is different trigger events, trigger context variables, and how you can effectively use all this together in your Apex trigger code. And at the end, we are also going to write two triggers to see things in action. Hi, I'm Siddharth and welcome to my channel Tech Trivia. In the previous video, I talked about basics of Apex, where we'll learn how to declare variables, how to use collections and loops. If you have not yet watched that video, I'm gonna drop the link in the I button here, so you can check that video first and then continue with this video. So let's start understanding trigger context variables. Now, as it sounds, these are the context variables. You can use them in your trigger code, and these are the reserved variables as well. And when you use them, it returns a specific values. So let's say you are updating one of your existing accounts in your org. The name is S4, the annual revenue is 500,000, and now you are updating the name to Arathon Software, and the annual revenue as 700,000. Now, when the values are getting updated, and if you have triggers on account object, in your trigger, when you use trigger.new, it holds the newer values of the record. So in trigger.new, you're gonna get Arathon Software and 700,000. But the trigger.old still holds the older values of the record, and that is S4 and 500,000. Now this example I just taken for a single record, but actually trigger.new and trigger.old returns a list. So what if you are using data loader and updating 200 records? In that case, the newer values of those 200 will be there in trigger.new, and the older value of those records will be there in trigger.old. So the idea is, if you have Apex trigger on that object, you can easily reference the older value as well as the newer value and perform any action that you wanted to. Similarly, there are two other variables as well, trigger.new map and trigger.old map. So the new map returns you the map of newer values of the record with an ID as a key, and the record as a value. And older map returns the list of older values of the record, ID as a key, and the record as a value. So today we're gonna use these 4 context variables, but keep in mind there are a few other context variables as well, which you can easily find in Salesforce developer guide. So now let's talk about the events. So there are total 7 events: before after insert, before after update, before after delete, and after undelete. Now what is undelete? When you restore the record from the recycle bin, that's where the undelete events occur. So Salesforce allows you to choose one or more of these types of events in your Apex trigger code. So you wanted to execute your logic upon one or more of these events. I know many of you are quite good with Apex code, but confused about events, whether you should use after or before event. So let me share my ideas and tricks with you that will surely gonna help you to understand and choose the correct event for your Apex trigger. So always ask this question to yourself: do you want to write a logic that is gonna update the records that are causing your triggers to run? I'll repeat one more time. Do you want to write your logic to be performed on the records that are causing your trigger code to run? If answer is yes, then you should use before events. And if the answer is no, then it's after event. So let's take an example here. You want to write a trigger code on account object that basically evaluates the annual revenue of an account, and if it is greater than 50,000, then it creates a contact record relating to that account. Now, if you apply this question here, are you going to update the same record that is causing the trigger to run? Answer is no, because account is created and that's where your trigger is going to be executed. But in your trigger, you are not doing anything on that account, but instead you are creating a contact record, a child record. So you should use the after event. It can be after insert if you want to execute your logic after account is inserted, or it can be after update if you want to execute the same logic after account record is updated. And the another example is whenever a contact is created, you just wanted to verify the title of the contact, and if it is blank, you wanted to update the title as business user. So the same question, if you ask, are you going to update the same record that is causing the trigger to run? The answer is yes. So you need to use the before event in that trigger. So let's quickly log in Salesforce and write these two triggers and see things in action. All right, so once you are in, we're going to write our Apex trigger in the developer console. So at top right corner, click on the gear icon, and there is an option developer console. Click on that. So let me quickly explain once again what trigger we're going to write. So we are going to write an after insert trigger on the account object that is going to evaluate the annual revenue of the account which are newly created or going to be created. If the annual revenue is greater than 50,000, in that case we are going to create a child contact record, and we're going to also set the relationship. All right, so in the developer console, to click on file, new, Apex trigger. Trigger name, we're gonna call it account trigger, and the as object, choose account, and then click submit. All right, so that is it. Let me quickly read the trigger and explain you line by line. So first three lines are basically comment that explains what logic is written in this trigger. Line number 4 is from where the trigger starts. Account trigger is the trigger name, and then there is an object name on account, and after insert is the event I wanted to execute my code in after insert event. If you wanted to add multiple events, you can simply add the comma and write all of the events that you want your code to be executed upon. So I can also write after update, In that case, this code will be executed whenever a record is created as well as when the account is updated. For now, to keep it simple, I just want to execute on insert. So keeping just after insert. Then there is line number 5. We declared list of contact. Again, if you have not watched the basics of Apex video, just go through that video first because we already learned the collections in that video. All right, so that is list of contact, and we are initializing the variable by using the equals operator, new keyword, and the parenthesis at the end. And we use a for loop. We are iterating on all of the records they are there. We are iterating on all of the records which are there in trigger.new. Basically, the new values is what we are accessing in trigger.new. And as we know, it's a list of records. So we use the for loop, and we are checking each of the records in the list and figuring it out whether the annual revenue is greater than 50,000 or not. If it is, then the further code will be executed. So we are creating a new contact. So line number 8 is how you can initialize a contact object or contact record. Same syntax, equals operator, new keyword, and the parenthesis. Then con is a variable of contact type, and then we are assigning the first name, last name, and the account ID to set the relationship. And once the contact is created, we are adding that contact in the list that we declared above. And after the for loop, we are checking the size of the list. If there is a record to insert, we are using insert statement to insert the record, the contact records, right? We are avoiding any DML within the for loop. So we added the DML after the for loop. All right, so let's verify our trigger logic. So click on the other tab, then the app launcher, the left hand side 9 dots. Select cells. And once you are in cells app, click on the accounts tab. And at top right corner, click on the new button to create a new account. Fill out all the required fields, in this case just the account name. So I'm gonna give a name, Ariton Software, and there is a field called annual revenue. Make sure to add the revenue greater than 50,000. So I'm just adding 700,000 and then click on the save. Great. And now you notice a contact is created with default contact name and also related to the account which you just created, right? So our trigger is working. So now let's quickly go back in the developer console and write another trigger for the second example that we discussed earlier. So we want to write the logic on the contact object, and we want to evaluate every new contact record whenever it's created, and if the title is blank, then we wanted to update the title with business user. So in this case, as your logic is gonna update the record that is calling the trigger, we're gonna use before event, right? So let's click on the file, new, then apex trigger. We're gonna give a name to the new trigger is contact trigger, and then in as object list, click on the arrow and select contact from the drop down. Click on submit. Now I'm gonna leave the comment part on you. Just add a proper comment. Alright, that is it. Let me explain each and every line of the code. So line number 1 is basically the trigger name, the contact trigger, and the object on which we are adding the trigger, that's a contact. And in the parentheses is the event before insert. And then there is a for loop from line number 2. We are simply checking all the new contact records from trigger.new, because a user may create multiple records at once using data loader or any other tool. So in that case, we're gonna check each and every record, and if there is a record with the blank title, so line number 3 is basically an if statement. We are checking the title is blank. If it is, then we are updating the title with business user text. Now you notice, because your trigger is executing on before event, you don't need to add a DML to update this record, because this record is already in the process to be created. Alright, so you just change the value of the fields as you want and just leave without any DML. Alright, let's verify whether this trigger is working or not. So let me quickly go on account tab, the previous tab, then click on contacts tab, and click on the new button at top right corner to create a new contact. Fill out all required fields, so salutation, last name, and first name as well. So I'm gonna write Anand Mishra, and you notice I'm gonna leave the title blank. Let me click on the save button, and you notice the title is updated by a trigger logic. It's a business user now at top right, at top left corner. Right. If I click on details, you can find it here as well. Great. So that means our trigger is working. So I hope this video will help you to understand the trigger and clear your doubts regarding the context variables and events, and the trigger code which we added for those two examples today. I'm gonna upload in the GitHub and share the link in the description of this video. If you are enjoying the content, then please hit the like button and share this video with others. And if you have any specific suggestions, or if you want me to cover more detailed Apex trigger scenarios, then also comment on this video. If you are new to the channel, then please hit the subscribe button and the bell icon. to get notified for all my upcoming videos. So that is it for today. Thank you very much, and I'll see you next week with the new learning topic. Happy learning.